Ubisoft will be launching 4 major AAA games between now and April 2020, including Recon Breakpoint, so 3 unannounced games. So yeah, Skull and Bones, that was of course announced a long while back, will not be one of them, so it has been delayed again. So what could the other unannounced titles be? I will share my predictions in this video and why it's very likely not a new Splinter Cell game as well. And also I want to touch on the success of Odyssey versus Assassin's Creed Origins, because it's pretty interesting and way more. So let's get into it. Would be awesome if you could leave a like on the video as it shows your support, and let's go. Ubisoft just had their financial report. Don't worry, they're making a ton of money. Last fiscal year, so between April 2018 and March 2019, we saw 3 AAA releases with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, The Division 2 and also The Crew 2. And now in this current fiscal year, so April 2019 until March 2020, we will see 4 new AAA games that will all be full priced, so full $60 games. And one of those games is Recon Breakpoint, that will launch on October 4th. A very interesting note is that the 3 other big games from Ubisoft will launch in January, February or March 2020. So Recon Breakpoint is the only new AAA release of 2019 for Ubisoft. I always speculated that a new Watchdogs game in the fall would make sense, just like Watchdogs 2, but that is not happening. So if we will still see a new Watchdogs game, it will be in the early part of next year, so early 2020. We already had many rumors about the new Watchdogs game set in London. It has been 3 years since the second game, so I totally think it makes sense that it comes back. So what are those 2 other games? A very important note is that all these games will be in different genres. Because people were wondering, okay, so you're going to launch 3 AAA titles in 3 months. Aren't they going to compete with each other? But Ubisoft assured the shareholders that this will not be the case. It will also be a different genre from Ghost Recon. So that immediately makes me think that one of those 2 unannounced games that is not Watchdogs will not be a new Splinter Cell. Yesterday, the creative director on The Division 2 had some drinks with other directors from Ubisoft, like during a big party, saying that he worked on Splinter Cell. So everyone was like, oh my god, it's happening, what the heck is going on? But very soon after that, Ubisoft confirmed that this was a joke. So if a Splinter Cell game is in development, like at all, it is still very early. We also had Ashraf Ismail, of course the game director on Assassin's Creed Origins and Black Flag, saying, sorry dad, I could not make it. I'm too busy working on a real game, implying of course that Splinter Cell is not in development. And he's of course working on the next Assassin's Creed, rumored to be called Kingdom, at least. That is what we think, so that will be the Viking game. So that is rumored to hit in the fall of 2020, so 2 years after Odyssey, so it will not be part of these 3 unannounced games. And I would totally not be surprised if they announced a new Steep game. They recently introduced new live activities again to the first game, so why do that out of the blue, right? I, by the way, also don't think that this first game was a flop. Like, I think it sold pretty well for this type of game. And they've been supporting Steep for a very long time as well, so there must have been a player base. They even had like Olympics DLC. So now out of nowhere they're like making new content for the first Steep game. Totally makes me think that there might be more to this. So yeah, Steep 2, likely the next Watchdogs. So what will be the other game? I would not be surprised if they made For Honor 2. They learned so much from the first game that was a pretty big success, by the way. Like, it sold a ton at launch. But I really think that a lot of people like me just played the game at launch and then just left because there were a ton of technical issues and never came back. They're still supporting this 2017 game, but I really think that if they want to get the most out of this franchise, then starting over, like having a new game, kind of like Ghost Recon, makes a ton of sense. Like, don't have the technical issues from launch and like start fresh. Like, I would probably never go back to the current For Honor, but if they would make a new game, I would totally check that out. It could also be that the team behind South Park The Fractured Butthole is ready to show something new. I mean, that has been a while for sure. Not sure if they will do a new South Park game. I think that ship has sailed. Ubisoft also always noted that they wanted to do more with Rainbow Six, so not a PvP game like Siege, but a game that could live maybe alongside Siege, so a co-op experience. Like, I totally would not be surprised if they made Rainbow Six into maybe an open world co-op game first-person shooter. But again, maybe that is still too similar to what Ghost Recon is trying to do, although of course Ghost Recon is a third-person game, while Rainbow Six is first-person. A new Rayman maybe? Could totally be the case. I'm of course curious to hear what you think these unannounced games will be. Let me know in the comments down below. Some other interesting details are regarding Assassin's Creed Odyssey that sold more than Origins in the 4th quarter of the fiscal year. So between January and March of 2018 for Origins and January and March 2019 for Odyssey. Like, compare the two and you will see that Odyssey sold more in the similar time period compared to Origins the year before. Odyssey also has 70% more players than Origins during this quarter, with more people buying stuff in the Helix store and also a higher season pass attach rate. And I gotta be honest, I see that as well. Like, compared to Origins, way more people are still playing and interested in Odyssey during the same early part of the year. I covered both, of course, extensively, and I really saw that with Origins, the overall consensus was like, yeah, what is left to do in the game, while in Odyssey you can, of course, do way more with the repeatable things that happen every week. Odyssey, of course, has also a way bigger post-launch, so not really weird that it's more popular than Origins. But yeah, overall the RPG direction is here to stay, just like for the other titles from Ubisoft, by the way, because it keeps players more invested in the game, meaning that they will then spend more money, but it also makes the Ubisoft games more attractive for the PC audience and for China, according to Ubisoft themselves. So yes, I bring this up many times that this would be the first year that we're not going to see a retail release for an Assassin's Creed game since Assassin's Creed 2. Because even in the off year between Syndicate and Origins, we still had the Ezio collection. And with Ubisoft now saying we got 3 AAA games in early 2020 and then 1 in the fall, still makes me think, are they going to do anything with Odyssey? It is super popular, maybe a big expansion, something like that. That does not count as AAA game. Let's just say that it will not happen because they did not talk about like having something for Assassin's Creed in store for the rest of the year. But I always want to bring it up, like Ubisoft has not skipped a fall since Assassin's Creed 2 without a retail release for an Assassin's Creed title. So it seems like this will be the first year since Assassin's Creed 2 that will not happen. And that would be very interesting indeed. Overall, Ubisoft is going to invest even more into the post-launch of their games, also adding more frequent updates instead of like big new updates every few months. Like, they're changing that right now for Rainbow Six, so we should expect that for their other games moving forward as well. So more frequent updates to keep the players engaged. So instead of like every few months, every week maybe something new. Something that the whole industry is kind of moving towards. And yes, Skull and Bones will not be at E3 this year and is actually delayed beyond March 2020. And that's because they're making it way bigger than before. And they want to give the devs more time to realize that. So while it was first a sort of PvP ship battle game, like the naval from an Assassin's Creed title, but then into their own game, well, now they're also talking about co-op and it being an RPG as well. So what I think they're going to do is make this an insane pirate playground instead of just a simple ship battle game that likely would not have lost it. Like, if they went with that, people would have been like, okay, but is this it? Can I not get off my ship to board this island? Like, there's so much you can do with a sort of pirate game and having PvP in there, and we kind of already see that with Sea of Thieves. And I would not be surprised if they saw the success of Sea of Thieves, like on Twitch. It's still a big success sometimes. Like, I don't follow it a lot, but sometimes you see it like on top of Twitch and then everyone is playing it again, I guess. But I would not be surprised if they saw that and thought, okay, we can do this, but on a way bigger scale. And I think that that is what they're going for. Ubisoft expects that if they are going to launch this game, it will be a really big game for them. And I think that if they really go all out and make this more of an open world pirate RPG, then I totally think that it could be. So yes, very interesting times. We will learn way more soon, Ubisoft said, likely at E3 during their press conference on June 10th. I'll be going to E3 to bring you all the latest news and new gameplay and way more. So totally subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date. Already made some content regarding Ghost Recon Breakpoint with way more coming your way. So check out my recent video on the biggest questions that people had after the reveal, where I tried to answer them. I already played the game at an event recently, so you can check that out by clicking on the screen. A like would of course be super appreciated, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye!